A typical school going Bangalore kid will be having their school by around 7:45 to 8 o'clock. That means their first meal in the day will be starting by 7:15 or by 7:30. So that's the time they ingest the first food into their system. By 10:30 or so, the snacks time will come, and then they'll be having whatever the biscuits or sandwich their mom had packed for them. And even before that food get digested, by 12:30 lunch bell will ring. So they'll be having lunch, which will be whatever the rice or chapati they'll be carrying, so they'll be eating that. So by the time the school gets over, typically it will be getting over by 3:45, 4 o'clock, they come home, their mom or the grandmom will think that they wouldn't have adequate food in the school, so they'll be feeding them one more lunch by around 4 o'clock or 4:15. By 6 o'clock also, when everybody are having their evening tea and snacks, their kids also will join them, and whatever biscuits and cookies and chocolates will be there, they'll be eating that at 6 o'clock in the evening. By 8 o'clock also, they'll be joining their family dinner. As usual, they'll be loading their body with high carbohydrate diet. If you see, these kids are having food for almost 6 times in a day, sometimes 7 times in a day. Apart from that, birthdays and parties and chocolates, and there are a lot of chances for them to keep on ingesting. In the apartment they stay, they'll be having birthday parties and then cakes and whatnot. Everything is full of carbohydrate. If you eat this much frequent in a day, and typically Indian diet, almost 70 to 80% of our diet comes from the carbohydrate source. In some culture, it is almost 90% is of carbohydrate. What is carbohydrate? Carbohydrate, when it is broken down into the finer molecule, it will become sugar. So carbohydrate is equal to sugar, and whenever the sugar is excessive in the blood, as a result of digestion, the carbohydrate will become sugar in the blood. The insulin will be secreted by the pancreas. What this insulin will do is it will reduce the blood sugar level, so that the blood sugar level does not increase to the abnormally dangerous levels. So that's the job of insulin. So it will keep on telling the cell to absorb the excess glucose from the blood to the cell. When you keep on eating food again and again, the insulin will be spiking again and again and again and again. At some point of time, the cells will become resistant to insulin. That means the cells will no longer respond to insulin, and it will say that I'm already full, I'm not going to hear you any longer. That is called as insulin resistance. The cells become resistant to insulin, and the insulin cannot push the glucose into the cell. And because the insulin is ineffective, the pancreas will be secreting more insulin in order to make the cell to respond it. So that will lead to a phenomenon called hyperinsulinemia. So the pancreas will be secreting more and more amount of insulin in order to make the cell to respond to it. But at some point of time, that also will get exhausted. So the pancreas will exhaust secreting the insulin, and this insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia put together will make the blood sugar level elevated high, and that's the time these people are officially diagnosed as diabetes mellitus. But what will happen to the excess sugar in the blood? The liver will not keep quiet. So what it will do is it will convert the excess sugar into the fat, and it will store the fat into the abdomen. It is called as abdominal obesity. So people who are having abdominal obesity are the one who are having high risk of heart attacks and the stroke. Apart from that, the abdominal obesity coupled with hyperinsulinemia will make the kidney to retain water, and these people will be getting high BP, otherwise called as hypertension. So you see here, the insulin resistance followed by hyperinsulinemia followed by abdominal obesity will cause excessive BP, and at some point of time they will get everything together. We call it as metabolic syndrome. This metabolic syndrome is the leading cause of death worldwide. Now, what we are doing for the school-going kids is alarmingly dangerous. We are ingesting too much of carbohydrate too frequently in their body, so that by the time they reach their 20s and 30s, they'll be having too much of metabolic syndrome, and they'll be having excess amount of blood sugar level, they'll be having BP and so on. This is the time bomb which is going to burst in another 15 to 20 years. So this video is to caution the authorities and the educationists, as well as the principals, as well as the moms who are feeding their kids this frequently, that too much of carbohydrate in the diet, which is not going to do any help for them. So what is the possible solution is, at least you make it less frequent. So eat less frequent as possible, and whatever you eat, see that you reduce the carbohydrate content and increase the protein or the fat content into that, and then you have to do the portion control. Instead of you eating 5 chapatis or 3-4 chapatis, you can eat 1 chapati and replace the remaining with vegetables and nuts and sprouts and other forms of high protein and low carbohydrate diet. vegetables which are having low sugar like broccoli, capsicum, cabbage, cauliflower and so on. Eggs and meat is wonderful in replacing the carbohydrate. And finally, you have to do little bit of exercise. You have to encourage your kids to do some exercises every day. When they have better muscle, the muscles are like sponge which absorbs the water. The muscles will absorb the blood sugar level so that it can help in maintaining the glucose level in the blood. So be mindful about what you put in your mouth, how frequently you put in your mouth, and how much quantity you put in your mouth. That will decide your future metabolic health. So this generation kids are the future of our country. So let us start saving their health for the better future. Thank you.